Her hands shook in chains. Every breath felt heavier than the last. A black woman in her 50s stood at the defense table. Tears streaked her face. Her name was Miss Johnson. The prosecutor slammed a folder shut. She's a danger to this community. The judge leaned forward, voice cold. Unless someone is here to defend her, she will be sentenced. The gallery went dead quiet. No cough, no whisper, only the sound of Miss Johnson's breath breaking in her chest. And then two figures rose. A man, a woman, hands raised high. From the back row, somebody gasped, "Wait, ain't those her old students?" The jury froze, the judge's eyes narrowed, and the next words they spoke shattered that courtroom. The sound of the judge's gavel still echoed, and just like that, her story pulled us backward. Chicago, South Side, mid-1990s, a hallway lined with dented lockers, carved initials, gang tags sprayed in thick black paint, GD for life. Vice lords, BD. Whole walls marked with battles nobody ever cleaned. Security guards stood at the front entrance, two men in blue jackets, eyes tired. A line of kids shuffled in, hoodies up, backpacks sagging, metal detectors screamed. Beep, beep. Every other kid set it off. One guard sighed, wand in hand. "Empty your pockets, let's go." Another muttered to himself, "Every day, same thing, ain't nothing changing." Inside the lunchroom, trays slammed down, rubber pizza squares. Half-frozen milk cartons, cornbread so dry it crumbled on touch. Kids joked over the food, loud enough to drown out announcements. But when the bell rang, order changed, at least in one room. Room 112. Miss Johnson's class, desks lined in straight rows, pencils sharpened, chalk lines drawn crisp across the board. On the wall, 3 rules, written bold in block letters. Respect, discipline, no excuses. The kids walked in loud, but as soon as she looked up, silence. Miss Johnson stood at the front, pressed blouse, stern eyes, voice steady, almost calm. "Sit down, open your notebooks, write today's date." Murmurs rolled through the back. Marcus, a 15-year-old with quick fists, leaned over his desk. "Man, she's strict for no reason." Elena, 2 rows over, tugged her hoodie tighter. "She swears she's somebody's mama." A boy near the window whispered, "All that yelling, for what? She miserable. Bet she don't even got a man." Laughter bubbled low. Chairs squeaked. One kid tapped a beat on his desk. Miss Johnson's eyes swept the room. She didn't raise her voice, didn't slam her hand. She just said, "Sit up straight. You are not invisible. Somebody in this room's gonna make it out of here, and I refuse to let you waste that chance." Silence. Not because they respected her, but because they didn't know how to answer. Marcus smirked. "She trippin'. Think she a drill sergeant?" A voice from the back shot back, "Nah, she just don't like us." The bell rang. Kids rushed out like a flood. The graffiti walls swallowed them again. But Miss Johnson stayed. She picked up torn notebook pages left on the floor, closed textbooks with broken spines, stacked pencils chewed down to stubs. On her desk lay a folded letter, the school seal in the corner. From the principal. She read it again. "Ease up. Parents are complaining, or else." She pressed the letter flat, slid it back into her drawer. Outside the window, sirens wailed. Somewhere down the block, another fight, another arrest. She looked out at the cracked basketball court, chain nets hanging by a thread, boys in white tees yelling over a game. No one thinking about homework. Miss Johnson whispered to herself almost like a prayer. "Lord, give me the strength to keep going tomorrow." Her shoulders sagged only when the last student was gone. Because what Miss Johnson carried home every night was heavier than any lesson plan. Marcus sat in the back row, arms crossed, pencil tapping against the desk. "Man, she always got something to say." The boy next to him snickered. "That's why you always suspended." Marcus smirked. "Suspended, please. They know I run this school." A sharp voice cut through the room. Miss Johnson. "Marcus, sit up, pencil down, eyes forward." Marcus rolled his shoulders. "See? Always picking on me." The class chuckled. Elena strolled in late, dragging her feet. Hoodie up, headphones half hidden, she didn't even look at the board. Miss Johnson's eyes followed her. "Elena, take 'em off now." Elena slid into her chair, smirk on her face. She spoke just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Relax, this ain't prison." Laughter erupted. Desks shook. One boy slapped the table. "Yo, she called her a warden." Miss Johnson stood firm, voice steady, not yelling. "I said take them off. This is not a game. You don't play with your future. Elena sighed, pulled the headphones out slow. Whatever. Whispers spread across the classroom. The mean black teacher. The nickname stuck. In the hallways, yo, who you got next? Johnson, man, I hate her class. In the lunchroom, she don't care about nobody. Always acting like she better than us. Marcus leaned back one afternoon, arms wide. She don't get it, we ain't her kids. Alina laughed. Exactly, she just mad at life. But when the final bell rang, the mask came off. Miss Johnson stayed behind, stacked papers, gathered notebooks, her voice softer now, talking only to herself. Lord, give me strength to keep going for each day. She left through the side door. Cold Chicago wind cut through her jacket. 3 blocks to the bus stop, South Chicago Avenue. She climbed onto the North 71 bus, tired eyes staring at the floor. 20 minutes later, she stepped into Jewel Osco. The manager waved from behind the counter. Evening, Miss J, back again? She nodded. Back again. Her cart wasn't filled with food for herself. It was school supplies. Notebooks, loose-leaf paper, pencils, highlighters. The cashier scanned the pile. All this for school? Miss Johnson smiled faintly. My kids don't have it. Somebody's got to make sure they do. The cashier shook her head. You know the district's supposed to cover that. Miss Johnson answered quiet. Supposed to. Later she walked up the narrow stairs of her apartment building, keys heavy in her hand, bag of supplies heavier still. Neighbors sat on the porch railing, whispered as she passed. Why she's still alone at her age? All that time for kids that ain't even hers. She crazy. Miss Johnson didn't stop, didn't answer. She just kept walking. Inside, she laid the supplies across her table. Stacks of graded papers piled next to them, unpaid bills under a coffee mug. Her lamp buzzed, the only light in the room. She opened the letter from the school that she read previously. Principal's warning in black ink. Ease up, parents are complaining, or else. She read it twice, folded it back, set it down, and whispered again, Lord, give me strength. The cafeteria smelled of reheated food and bleach. Folding chairs squeaked as parents filled the room. It was parent-teacher night. One mother raised her hand. You too hard on these kids. They already dealing with enough out here. A father in a White Sox jacket leaned forward. Yeah. My son say you load him with homework every night. These kids got jobs too, you know. They ain't robots. Another parent spoke from the back. Half the time, my daughter come home crying. You the reason, you too strict. Miss Johnson stayed seated at the lawn table. Hands folded, voice even. I don't apologize for wanting the best for your children. Standards are the only thing keeping them from the streets. The room buzzed. Parents looked at each other. One whispered loud enough to carry. She act like she raising them herself. A man shook his head. She don't even got kids of her own. That's the problem. She don't get it. The next morning, her computer pinged. An email from the board. We've received multiple complaints. Ease up, or we'll replace you. She stared at the screen, closed the laptop. In the teacher's lounge, 2 women by the coffee machine lowered their voices. She don't play politics. That's why she always in trouble. Another added, stirring her cup. She thinks she the only one that cares about the kids. The door opened. Ms. Johnson stepped in, their voices cut. Eyes darted to the floor. Spoons stirred louder. Out in the parking lot, students stood by the fence, watching her unlock her car. An old Honda Civic. Rust creeping along the bumper. Marcus laughed so hard he had to hold his stomach. That's our strict teacher's ride. Yo, I swear I thought she was rich the way she talk. A boy joined in. Whole car looked like it need extra credit just to start. Elena smirked, tossing her braid over her shoulder. She act like she better than us. But look at that bucket. Please, she just want to control people. Another kid added, loud enough for her to hear. Facts. She don't care about us. She just like telling people what to do. Laughter echoed through the lot. Miss Johnson slid into the driver's seat, keys tight in her hand. She heard every word. She said nothing. Later that week, Marcus leaned against his locker, voice low but sharp. Yo, watch. She keep pushing. Somebody can snap on her. Elena leaned close, voice dripping with sarcasm. She swears she's saving us. Girl, please. She don't know nothing about us. Another boy chimed in, shaking his head. She don't even smile. Teacher's supposed to make kids feel good. All she do is pile on pressure. The whispers weren't quiet anymore. The jokes weren't hidden. Her reputation in the hallways was sealed. The mean black teacher. But in her small apartment, the reality was different. Stacks of graded papers covered the table. Receipts for supplies lay crumpled in a shoebox. Bills piled up in the corner. She marked essays under a buzzing lamp. Her hands heavy, her eyes tired. The voices of parents, co-workers, and kids circled her head. You too hard. She don't care. She just want to control people. But Marcus, but Elena, they had no idea what was coming to their own homes. The lunchroom was loud, kids shouting over cold pizza, trays clattering. Marcus sat at the center table. He leaned across, face hard. Yo, you got something to say about me? Another boy smirked. Everybody know you only tough in class. Sit down. Marcus shoved the tray off the table. Milk splashed across the floor. Say it again. The boys stood, fists clenched. Chairs scraped back. A crowd formed fast. Elena jumped in, her voice sharp. Don't talk to him like that. Another girl pushed her shoulder. Elena shoved back. Touch me again, I swear. Food flew. Apples rolled across the floor. The fight exploded. Kids screamed. Fight! Fight! Yo, record this. Security guards rushed in. Break it up. Move back. One grabbed Marcus by the arm. Marcus twisted, yelling, Get off me. I ain't done. Another security officer pulled Elena away. She kicked against the floor. Let me go. She started it. The whistle shrieked again. The room shook with chaos. A teacher shouted into a walkie. We need backup. Call CPD now. Minutes later, the police stormed in. Blue uniforms cutting through the crowd. Handcuffs snapped tight. Marcus cursed, thrashing. This school trash. Y'all always blaming me. Elena cried out. This ain't fair. Nobody ever listens to us. The crowd roared with chatter. Some kids pulled out phones. Others just stared. By evening, the story had spread. Phones ringing. Parents calling the board. The email landed in Miss Johnson's inbox. Your inability to control your classroom and cafeteria has put students at risk. We demand your resignation. The next night, the gym was packed. Folding chairs in rows. Parents crammed on bleachers, the air thick with anger. A father in a Cubs hat stood first. She can't keep these kids safe. She gotta go. A mother waved her hand in the air. My baby don't even want to come to school no more. He say she make it feel like jail. Another parent shouted from the side. We pay taxes for this, and look what's happening under her watch. The crowd clapped, stomped, jeered. Voices layered on top of each other. The board members sat stiff at the front table. One tapped his microphone trying to restore order, but the noise kept rising. Then Marcus's voice cut through the chaos. He stood in the back, arms folded, face burning with anger. You ate my mama. The gym fell quiet for half a second. His words sliced through the air. Elena stood beside him, arms crossed, eyes cold. Yeah, she just like yelling at us. She don't care. She never cared. Gasps echoed through the gym. Some clapped in agreement. Others shook their heads. One parent shouted from the bleachers. See? Even the kids she teach don't respect her. The board chair tapped the mic again. Voice firm. This school needs a change. Miss Johnson, you are relieved of your position effective immediately. Cheers. Applause from some corners. Boos from others. At the front, Miss Johnson gathered her papers, her face stern, her posture steady. She didn't argue. She didn't shout back. She simply walked out. The gym doors closed behind her. Her heels echoed on the floor. The voices of parents and kids still rumbling inside. The board thought they had broken her. But that night, it wasn't Miss Johnson who would break. It was the kids, when the system came for them instead. Weeks passed. But the streets didn't let up. One night, Marcus came home late. The block was lit red and blue. Sirens screamed. His building door was wide open. Neighbors crowded the sidewalk. Miss Mess, that Carter from downstairs, saw him. Her voice cracked. Baby, I'm sorry. It's your mama. She didn't make it. Paramedics rolled a stretcher through the hallway. White sheet pulled up, too high. Marcus froze on the stairs, words stuck in his throat. What? What you mean she ain't make it? She was just at the store yesterday. A cop stepped forward, voice heavy. Son, it looks like an overdose. The neighbors whispered. One shook his head. Man, that's the second one this month on this block. Marcus gripped the stair rail. Tears stung his eyes, but his voice rose. Nah, she was fine. She promised me. The officer didn't answer. Paramedics loaded the stretcher. The sheet never moved. Marcus stood alone, breathing hard, the world collapsing. Across town, Elena's story cracked too. Heavy knocks rattled her front door. Blue uniforms on the porch. Her father sat cuffed on the steps, squad cars idling, neighbors gathered with folded arms. One officer read aloud, "Charges include possession and intent to distribute. He'll be held at Cook County." Elena's voice shook. "You taking him? Who's supposed to watch me?" The officer adjusted his cap, avoided her eyes. "A social worker will contact you. We'll make arrangements." She slammed the door. Backpack flew against the wall. Her voice cracked into the empty house. "Man, this system don't care about nobody. 2 kids, 2 homes shattered, 2 futures on the edge." Days later, the caseworkers came, clipboards in hand, faces stiff. One sat across from Marcus. "You'll be placed with a foster family. It's temporary until we sort things out." Marcus snapped. "I ain't going with strangers. Don't touch me." The worker sighed. "Marcus, it's procedure." He shook his head. "I don't care. Y'all don't know me." Another worker met with Elena, paperwork stacked in her lap. "We've got an opening 2 towns over. You'll have your own room." Elena folded her arms, eyes burning. "You not shoving me in no random house. Forget that. I ain't going." The worker frowned. "It's not a choice. You need guardianship." Elena's voice cracked louder this time. "Then where was all this help when my dad was working doubles? Y'all only show up when it's too late." The caseworkers exchanged looks. Time was running out, decisions had to be made. And then, a voice came from the doorway. "Miss Johnson, standing tall, I'll take them." The room went still. Everyone turned. The lead worker blinked. "Excuse me?" She stepped closer, firm, clear. "I'll take them. Both of them." Marcus's head snapped up. "What? No way." Elena laughed dryly. "You serious? After everything we said to you?" The worker raised an eyebrow. "Do you understand the responsibility? They're teenagers, troubled. Not easy." Miss Johnson didn't waver. "I've already been raising them, in my classroom. Now I'll do it at home." The papers slid across the desk. Pens clicked. Silence heavy. Marcus muttered under his breath. "This don't make sense." Elena shook her head. "You got no reason to do this. None." The worker looked from them to Miss Johnson. "Are you certain? This isn't temporary. Once you sign," her answer came firm. "I'm certain." Ink hit paper. Decision sealed. The caseworkers gathered their files, closed their folders. The room shifted. Marcus's voice cracked, softer now. "Why, after everything we said about you?" Miss Johnson's eyes didn't harden. Her tone didn't rise. She simply said, "Because discipline is love." The words dropped heavy, so heavy the room stilled. Even the caseworkers paused, heads lowered. Silence stretched. No one argued, no one laughed. Marcus stared at the floor. Elena bit her lip, neither spoke again. But love doesn't erase resentment. And the world wasn't done testing her. The chains of the past never broke, they only got heavier. Years rolled on, students grew up, and the woman they once called the mean black teacher now stood accused. Not in a classroom, but in a courtroom. The headlines hit hard. Chicago Tribune, Sun-Times. Strict teacher exposed, financial misconduct alleged. Whispers filled the gallery before the trial even began. Knew she was too hard, always had something to hide. She acted holier than thou, now look. At the front, Miss Johnson sat with her wrists chained, gray streaks in her hair, her eyes tired but steady. The prosecutor rose, slick suit, voice sharp, folder clutched in his hand. He faced the jury, pointed toward Miss Johnson. "Ladies and gentlemen, don't be fooled. This is no saint. This woman is controlling. She is abusive. And now we have proof of fraud." He paced across the floor, heated. Gesturing wide, she created an environment of fear, not love. She misused funds, she manipulated her students, she bullied colleagues, and now she stands before you, exposed. He slammed the folder shut, the echo carried. The gallery buzzed, murmurs rising. One juror whispered to another, "She don't look dangerous, but fraud, that's serious." Another whispered back, "They called her strict, maybe too strict." The judge raised his gavel, voice deep, gravel-like. "Order. Order in this court." The chatter died. The prosecutor smirked, confident. The judge turned to Miss Johnson. "The evidence has been presented. Unless there's a defense, He leaned forward, eyes sharp, voice heavy. "This court is prepared to pass sentence." The room froze, every eye fixed on Miss Johnson, the air thick, and then a voice rose, firm, clear. "Your Honor, I will speak." Heads turned, gasps spread. From the second row of the defense table, a man stood, tall, suit pressed, papers in his hand. Marcus, no longer the hot-headed boy in detention, now a licensed defense attorney. The whispers started instantly. "Wait, ain't that one of her old students?" "No way, that's him?" The bailiff stepped closer, held out a Bible. Marcus placed his hand on it, voice steady. "I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Before the echo faded, another figure rose. A woman this time, folder clutched tight to her chest. Elena. No longer the girl with a hoodie and headphones, now a social worker. The bailiff turned to her. She raised her right hand. "I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth." The judge squinted, confused. "And who exactly do you claim to represent?" Marcus didn't hesitate. He turned, pointed. "Her, our teacher." Elena's voice followed, strong, clear. "We will defend our teacher." The gallery erupted, shouts, gasps, reporters scribbling, cameras snapping. One woman whispered, clutching her chest, "After all these years, they came back for her?" A man shook his head. "This don't happen, not in real life." The prosecutor's face twisted. He rifled through his papers. "Objection, this is irregular." But the judge raised his hand. Silence returned. "Proceed. I want to hear what they have to say." Marcus stepped forward, face stern, voice measured. "You've heard the accusations, you've heard the labels, but today you will hear the truth. Not from files, not from gossip, from lives." Elena placed her folder on the table, hands trembling but her voice unshaken. "They called her mean, they called her strict, but without her, I wouldn't be alive to stand here today." The gallery went silent. Every head turned, every breath held. The jury leaned forward. Even the judge's gavel rested quiet. And what they revealed next left the entire courtroom speechless. The jury sat still, eyes fixed on the two people standing at the front. Marcus took a step closer. His voice carried steady, sharp. "They called her mean. They called her strict. But what they didn't see was the nights she went hungry so we could eat." A murmur spread through the courtroom. One juror leaned to another. "Is that true?" Marcus raised his voice. "You've seen the files, you've seen the charts, but you haven't seen her walking home with groceries that weren't for her. You haven't seen her sliding sandwiches across the table when my fridge was empty. That's not abuse, that's sacrifice." The prosecutor shuffled papers, trying to interrupt, but Marcus didn't stop. "She didn't steal. She gave. She gave until there was nothing left for herself. And you want to call that fraud?" Gasps filled the gallery. Reporters scribbled furiously. Elena stepped forward, eyes wet but voice fierce. "When my father was taken away, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd end up lost. But she showed up. She took me in. She bought me a prom dress with money she needed for rent. She didn't tell nobody. She didn't want credit. She just wanted me to have one night where I felt like I mattered." A woman in the gallery covered her mouth. "Oh my God," another whispered. "That could have been my daughter." Elena pressed her folder to her chest. "You call her controlling. I call her the reason I'm alive, the reason I didn't give up." The jury leaned forward, every face drawn in. Marcus turned back to the jury, hands gripping the rail. "We mocked her. We laughed at her car. We said she didn't care. But the truth, she cared more than anyone else ever did. She carried us when the system left us behind." He paused, breath heavy. "And now, it's our turn to carry her." The room went silent, so silent you could hear pens stop scratching. The judge leaned forward, voice deep. "The jury will now deliberate." The foreperson stood quickly. "Your Honor, we don't need time." The judge raised a brow. "You've already reached a verdict?" The foreperson nodded. Paper in hand, voice clear. "On the charges of fraud and misconduct, we find the defendant not guilty." The words cracked the silence. Not guilty. Not guilty. The courtroom erupted. Applause thundered. Chairs scraped. Some stood. Reporters rushed to the phones. A juror whispered to another, "I've never seen anything like that." Parents in the gallery cried openly. One man said under his breath, We hated her, but she saved them. At the defense table, Miss Johnson sat motionless. Tears streamed down her cheeks, her hands pressed together, and then she whispered, so soft, yet the whole front row heard it. Strict love saves lives. Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. Elena stood beside her, head high. The gavel struck once more. The judge declared, the defendant is free to go. The cuffs came off. For the first time in decades, Miss Johnson walked out, not as the mean teacher, not as the accused, but as the woman whose love had been proven. The gallery clapped again, not for victory, but for truth. But the real lesson was never hers, it was ours. The gavel had fallen, the cuffs were gone, the courtroom emptied. But the question still hangs, not for Miss Johnson, for us. How many of us sat in a classroom rolling our eyes? How many of us cursed the teacher who told us to sit up straight, finish the homework, respect ourselves? How many of us said, man, she's too strict, he's too mean, they don't get it? And then years later, we realized they were the only ones who did. Listen, strict teachers exist in every school, Chicago, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Houston. In every district, kids talk under their breath. She don't care about us. He just want to control everything. Man, they too hard. But then you grow up, and you remember who stayed late to tutor you. Who bought supplies when the school budget ran out. Who skipped meals so you wouldn't. Those same teachers? The ones we laughed at? The ones we mocked? They were saving our lives. So let me ask you, right now, how many of us hated the strict teacher who pushed us harder, but later realized they saved us? Think about it. Think about the face, the name, the voice that still echoes in your memory. Sit up. Try again. I know you can do better. That's not abuse. That's belief. That's discipline. And here's the thing. This story isn't just about Miss Johnson. It's about all of us. Because somebody fought for you when you didn't deserve it. A teacher, a parent, a coach, a neighbor, somebody. Drop a comment. Did you ever think your teacher was against you only to realize later they were for you? Don't hold it in. Say their name. Honor them now while you still can. And listen closely. This part is not optional. Don't scroll without typing thank you if someone ever fought for you when you didn't deserve it. Because maybe, just maybe, they saved your life too.